Hey, welcome to Coast to Coast. Just completed doing a video on the Florida black bear hunt on how to apply. But as I mentioned in that video, I wanted to do a separate section talking about overall, my thoughts and opinions on the Florida black bear hunt because there's a lot of different controversies, thoughts and opinions out there. And I wanted to, again, answer the number one question top of mind is should we be having the black bear hunt? And my answer is absolutely. Now, there's a few different talking points in this video I'm going to go over, but again, I'm coming from this from a conservationist point of view. And so, there's probably a few different camps that you might sit in, and we're going to talk about some of those thoughts, questions, things to make things better. So that way, as we continue to go through this process, we can have a discussion and look at what the science is saying. As you watch this video, you're probably right now sitting in one of three camps. So, camp number one is being pro preservation, more of the idea of anti hunting, wanting to look out for populations and um, having separate interactions from humans and animals that doesn't include hunting. It's a more consistent view. It's one that I don't agree with, but again, that is very well an area you might be standing in. Number two, the camp of being pro hunting, but you're having concerns to population of black bears specifically. Whether or not I think we see this a lot in fishing, where FWC opens up a certain game species, and some folks might be like, I just don't know if we're quite there yet. And then number three, you're probably a pro hunter that's more on the side of conservationalist, where you are all for the good management of harvesting and being able to hunt animals in the state of Florida. And so, as I mentioned, I'm on the side of conservationalist, where I think that this is a great opportunity to open up a hunt in Florida that has been facilitated by many of the states in the US that allow for hunting. And so, black bears overall are a resource. And I think that's something that really one of the things that really grinds my gears is seeing articles out there saying that Florida black bear trophy hunt opens up. It's up there with like when articles say that fully semi-automatic shouldn't be allowed, and things that just have a spin on it that make it sound a lot scarier than it is. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to hunting and harvesting animals, bears are amazing. You can not only just keep the head, the fur, the claws, but you can utilize the meat. Bear fat is actually some of the most like the best resources that you can have. And so, right from the rip, one of the main things that just really just gets at me is whenever I'm hearing the trophy hunt is opening up. At the end of the day, this is not about trophy hunts. This is about harvesting a resource that is provided to us in the state of Florida, and one that's been done before. And I think the number one argument, for Camp 2 on pro hunters with concerns to population is maybe the last black bear hunt that happened, where they had it open for a couple of days and they had to close it because they reached the harvesting that they had projected in no time at all. So that's a completely fair area to be in. And then for the pro hunters and the conservationalist side, once you start taking a look at the FWC website and seeing how they're handling the harvest management programs and how they're going to be making sure to maintain a population, it really makes sense to why we should be allowing for a Florida black bear hunt. And to provide a little bit, let's dive into the numbers. So looking at my screen here, this is going off the Florida Bear Management Plan that I talked a little bit through on my last video, going through how to apply. But you can see that the Florida black bear population here in Florida has made a massive rebound, and we're seeing this with a lot of species. In fact, what is amazing is a lot of times when we put emphasis and resources towards species that were once really decimated and were at a area of not being able to potentially rebound, once we are able to get numbers up to a certain point to where we can manage them, a lot of time hunting actually helps out with making sure that their numbers are stayed at a number that is manageable. And so you can see from the early 1500s, there was a lot more black bears than in any other time. But as since then, obviously development has gone up hencefold. We're seeing more and more developments and properties and land just being stripped away. And so, understanding what the carrying capacity is for black bears is an important thing to notice. And so, in 2012 through 2015, they've been having estimates ranges of population from 3 to 5,000. Right now, the main estimate is 4,050 black bears across the state. And so, since we're only allowing the harvest of only so many of those numbers, it's unlike the 2015 black bear hunt to where, we are going to meet that number within a couple days because they're handling it very differently. In fact, let me show you this here. Looking at the numbers a little bit further, of the 187 bear permits that they're going to be issuing, this number isn't a random number that's been that they're putting out there. This number of 187 is using a growth model that actually looks at, even if there was a 100% success rate, which is a very highly unlikely scenario. I guarantee you the success rate, I think, this year will probably be around 20-30%. But that would result in a zero population growth. And that is even if every single harvest of the 187 tags that they give out is all females. So this number that they're providing for harvesting bears isn't just a willy-nilly number, and it's not something that is going to be handled as it was in the past, where it was like, once we get to this number, we're going to shut it down. So the Florida black bear hunt is going to see its entirety for the FY25 up till 27, I think, with them also mentioning how there's going to be able to add dogs into it, etc. But overall, like with camp number one, the preservationalists, I'm not really sure where all the anthropomorphic views on bears come from, because at the end of the day, bears are a resource, and so we have to look at it in that regard. I don't see why having a bear season differentiates anymore from hunting hogs or deer, etc. So, the models that they're going to use from this year and moving forward is really going to be able to be sustainable, to ensure that even at 100% success rate, the population growth isn't going to be affected by the hunt opening up, and we're going to be able to put more money towards the conservation and the helping the habitat for bears to be able to go to. And that's one thing that might be angering a lot of people that are in camp 2 or 3, is people that are going to apply for the bear hunt that don't even plan on hunting it. In which case, what I would say is, by all means, do it. Put your money towards the bear hunt, because in the past, the the main source of conservation funding is coming from hunters. And while hiking and bird watching and going to be in nature are all great things, at the end of the day, preservationists that just want to go out there and hike and enjoy the things that are available in Florida, a lot of their dollars do not go towards the benefit of the conservation that we want to see here in Florida. And so hunters have a very high stake in this, and it allows us to have a little bit more leeway, in my opinion, to be able to have future hunts. And because we're not going to hit 100% success rate more than likely this year, what that's going to do is, number one, FWC might open up a second part of the season after December, to allow for higher harvest numbers if the success rate is very low. Or number two, in the future year, they're going to open up even more permits for hunters to be able to utilize. So the short term, it might be very frustrating for people, especially those that want to go and hunt. But for the long term of things, it's a good thing. Like, I would rather, at least the group number one support and put money towards expanding, having land be available and resources be available, versus only, those that are applying. So at least in the long term of things, it's going to be a benefit. And that's something to say too for those that might be planning to apply for tags to save a bear's life. I mean, by all means, like, go for it, but just know that the goal that you have in mind is probably not going to be really realized. In fact, you're going to just only allow for the expansion of this opportunity, which I welcome. I want to see more opportunities for bear hunting. I want to see increases in opportunities on private land. And so that kind of leads me to the next talking point I want to talk about, is the way they are handling the quotas. And so, as far as how they're going about the application process and everything, I have some thoughts on that. So, the thoughts that I have right now for how they're handling the lottery, um, I really do not like the pay to win structure. Just like with very few people in the community game, but like like if you're playing video games and you have to pay to like win and get an upper hand on people, I think it's something that's ridiculous. And I do appreciate overall, like I view it very similar to when they opened up Goliath grouper seasons in Florida. I thought it was overall a great thing. Even though that it had a lot of fire and a lot of people saying, "Oh, they shouldn't do this." The parameters that they put on it were very strict at first, and I hope that they continue to expand. But at least it provides an opportunity to go out and harvest Goliath grouper, and so I'm glad that we have a starting point and an area to build off of right now. So, like I mentioned, right now it looks like there's a 3-year plan in place. Next year is going to open up private land opportunities and allow for dog training. And then 2027 is when the dog hunt's going to be implemented for black bears, which I think is a good thing overall. Expanding opportunities to utilize dogs and have a higher harvest rate is good. And so, what I would like to see in the future is opportunities similar to the gator hunt. Even if that means having the permit, if you draw it, be more money. There should either be, I would like it to model the gator harvest system to where you put in for your application, and if you're drawn, you pay the X amount of money, and you can only put in one application. Because when you allow for multiple applications that people that have a lot more money that want to go out and hunt, it just provides them those opportunities over the common people that want to be able to participate in this event. And so, at future FWC meetings, I'd love to see dialogue and opportunities come up for changing how they do the drawing. But overall, it's a good starting point to at least have it, but it could be done better just because it's just 100% based on how much money you have in your wallet to be able to give your odds a better chance. I do like that it's only one tag per drawing. So if I put in, let's say 100 applications and I'm granted one, I'm only going to get one non-transferable permit. And so that's going to shut down things like, like guided hunts, etc. Now, what I will say is on the private land side, they really do need to make that more accessible. I think that folks that have 50 acres or so should be able to hunt as long as they are tagging their harvest and going about it a legal way. That allows more opportunities to occur that are on properties where there's higher bear populations. I don't think a lot of people want FWC doing a routine check on their private land to, number one, check the populations, and then number two, having to do that every single year. That really is a hassle on private landowners. And I do agree that it needs to have a public land opportunity for people so that way more participants can get outdoors and partake in this. But for those that are having private land, they should also have some opportunities to be able to go out and do this as well. So to close this conversation, because I covered a lot of ground, I'll leave with this. For the three groups out there, our preservationists that are anti-hunting, that want to preserve resources. I don't think there's very much I can say to help sway you. I can show you the data, but I hope that at the end of the day, you understand a little bit better on why having this hunt is actually a benefit for not only the bears, but overall wildlife, and making sure to have more public land opportunities. And again, if you plan on applying, just know that the money that you're putting towards this hunt to take away from a hunter is going to end up shooting you in the foot. I mean, if you're dead set on doing that, you're going to do what you're going to do. But overall, like, I mean, I'm just glad that at least you're putting money towards something of benefit for the state of Florida. For number two, those that are pro hunting with concerns to the population, I just want to say, please take a look at the data. Look at the Florida Black Bear Management Plan. There's over 100 pages of studies and multiple um, multiple different reportings and findings on this to showcase that we are at a point to where we can have a sustainable hunt, and that this is something that is rooted in good. If you don't plan on hunting for black bear, that's completely fine, but at least being a support for this program is going to be really beneficial in making sure that it expands. And then those in Camp 3 that are pro hunting conservationists that are in the camp of wanting to have this black bear hunt, if you plan on applying, I just wish you nothing but good luck on these hunts coming up. I think that we have a really bright program up ahead. I'm very excited for, and just again, just want to thank you for everything that you guys do and continuing to support the public lands, the private lands of Florida, and being good stewards of it. So, if this is your first time, please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Also, would love to see your comments below. If you disagree with me or have better ideas, would love to see them and read them. Because I know that this is a topic that's going to have a lot of different viewpoints, but felt like sharing mine might be something of benefit for the channel. So, thank you all and have a good one.